Welcome back to Primary Source China Investment. This week we're on show M6, and we're talking about what is going on with China and Mexico. As it turns out, a lot. China's direct investment into Mexico reached more than $500 million US in 2022, and probably more than $1 billion in 2023. The country's two-way trade has risen 38% over the past 4 years, and that's based on Bank of Mexico statistics. Travel from China to Mexico is at pre-COVID levels, and in our estimation, there are three things driving those reasons. And the first one is trade. Today, we're focusing on Mexico's importation of Chinese exports. So just as American and European firms found out during COVID that an overdependence on China's supply chain was not a great idea, Chinese firms are finding out that an overdependence on free trade is also a fool's errand. So tariffs have been implemented, and now China is using Mexico not just as a stopping off place. So industrial parks such as the Nuevo León and Hofusan have attracted some of the biggest industrial names in China, such as CATL, the big battery maker, Huawei, Lingong Machinery, Hisense, BYD, and Trina Solar. This demonstrates that Mexico will not just be a final assembly, but more and more companies and suppliers will be going to Mexico as well. If you look at this chart of the trade, it's a chart that everybody loves to see. It's up and to the right. You see some disruption during COVID, but in general, trade just, again, this is imports to Mexico from China just keep going up. The smaller number in yellow is exports to China from Mexico, and that's pretty small, actually. But don't forget that Mexico has a domestic population of 130 million and a per capita GDP of slightly more than China's. Also, it has a high urbanization rate and a young population. This is a prime market for any company or country looking. But the cat and mouse game is going to continue, and there's no guarantees that Chinese invested and managed manufacturing enterprises will have a smooth launch in Mexico. But as we like to say on this show, trade will find a way. Hongguo, what's your thoughts about Chinese companies setting up shop in Mexico?
I think that is slow, still follow the US as just a global supply chain. They always, someone just have some idea on mind and then decided change the global supply chain. And so I believe that looks like select Mexico as the primary supply base. So that's many companies naturally just move to that place to try to manufacture products and ship it to the United States.
Yeah,
So I believe the final export destination most of the time should be the United States. Obviously, the whole business process, if you optimize, definitely you will add some values compared to the previous structure. But overall, I think you still need to find out the best competition advantage ways to do business.
Yeah, if you look at what Tesla did, Tesla set up a manufacturing facility in Monterrey, and a lot of the inputs for Tesla's end product, which is a car, obviously, or now the Cybertruck, a lot of the input companies started exporting to Mexico. So that was the idea that, well, maybe Mexico will just be a final assembly place. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think, countries are going to find suppliers locally or create them out of full cloth. I think that's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. Now, obviously, the U.S. government is going to have their say, and just yesterday we're reading that U.S. put pressure on Mexico to stop incentives for Chinese EV makers. So, that's also going to happen. That's not going to go away.
That's true. So this is always a change in this place. But I think Mexico has a bigger problem on the electricity and the water supply. So those two fundamental things is really capped the capacity of the Mexico. So they have to solve this problem firstly.
Yeah, but they do have, again, positive and negative. They do have a lot of natural resources. They do have a young labor force. So it'll be
That's true.
interesting. It'll be interesting to watch. The second point
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up is flights. There are currently no direct flights between China and Mexico. Before COVID, 3 airlines offered 8 round-trip flights. Getting to Mexico via the US is also more difficult by fraught relations within the two top economies, but direct flights are currently limited to 100 per week, down from 340 before the pandemic. And then US carriers have the added hurdle of going around banned Russian airspace. So that's going to change. There's going to be a direct flight, I think, from Shenzhen or maybe from Hainan to Tijuana, I think, is the end place. Not Mexico City, because Mexico City is like at 7,000 feet, so you can't fill the aircraft with passengers and freight, so because of the thin airspace. But flights are definitely coming back.
Yeah, please add the direct flight in the United States and
Yeah,
Mexico.
a lot of
I'm
people.
really
A lot of
tired of
people.
the transfer flight. As
A
long
lot
as
of
you added it, definitely more people will choose it. Please.
Definitely. Well, we don't. If we controlled it, Pengguo, we'd make it happen. The third piece of this is what I'll call part of this barbell strategy, right? All of this great, headline stuff about trade. There's also a very dark third point, and that's illegal immigration. More than 37,000 Chinese migrants were detained at the US border in 2023. That's 10 times the number of a year earlier. That's from US Customs and Border Protection. That's the data from them. That means 37,000 people presented themselves at the border. Who knows how many more got through? Chinese nationals made up only 1.5% of the 2.5 million migrants encountered there in 2023. That's a huge number. Most of these people fly to Ecuador because it has no visa requirements for Chinese nationals. And then many fly to Tijuana and meet up with human traffickers, pay them $600 and drop them at a hole in the border. 60 Minutes did an interview with hundreds of these individuals and asked, why are they all coming? Almost all said economic opportunity, and only one said freedom. And how did they learn about this trek? Douyin, better known as TikTok. There are many, many reasons for this, and we don't want to be overly political, but this is a reality. These are real numbers and real people and real lives. One of the reasons is that having a Chinese passport and coming to America on a visa went from difficult pre-COVID to almost impossible. Since 2016, there were 2.2 million temporary visas issued for Chinese individuals coming to the US. In 2022, that number was 160,000. So a huge drop off in the number of visas for Chinese people coming to the US.
Yeah, hopefully it can get back to normal situations. And I'm surprised to see those immigrants. I know this is definitely a very complicated story behind each person. And so that's also related to the United States illegal immigrants policy. So we will say it would be a hot topic during the election season.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it in context, those Chinese people coming from China to Mexico legally, 160,000. Illegally caught at the border, 37,000. I was shocked at the levels, at those kind of levels. I mean, I wasn't shocked at 160,000. I was shocked at 37,000 people were picked up at the US border. So we're going to leave it with that. I'm sure there's a lot more to discuss with that. We're going to leave it with show M6. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.